a little boy sitting at the edge of my bed, staring at me with hollow, sorrowful eyes, and he said, "I've been waiting for you, sister." It was a cold night, the kind where the wind howls through the trees like a grieving spirit, rattling windows and whistling through the cracks beneath doors. The warmth of my blankets should have been enough to lull me back into sleep. But something felt off. A strange heaviness pressed against my chest, a suffocating sense of unease. It wasn't a sound that woke me, nor was it the flickering streetlight outside my window. No, it was a feeling, the distinct sensation of being watched. My breath hitched as my eyes fluttered open, adjusting to the darkness. And that's when I saw him. A little boy, no older than 6 or 7, perched at the edge of my bed. His small hands rested on his knees, his head slightly tilted. His hair was disheveled, his skin pale, and his clothes old, as if he had stepped out of a forgotten past, covered in dust and time. I froze. My body refused to move, my voice caught somewhere deep in my throat. Who are you?" I finally managed to whisper, my voice barely above a breath. His lips curled into a faint, almost sorrowful smile. "You don't remember me?" he asked softly. "I'm your little brother." A chill crawled up my spine, my body tensed. I never had a brother. "That's not possible," I stammered, gripping the sheets tightly. "I'm an only child." His expression didn't change. If anything, his eyes darkened, clouded with something I couldn't quite place. "No," he said, his voice unwavering. "You were supposed to be." My heart pounded against my ribcage. "What do you mean?" The boy lowered his head, as if struggling to recall something distant, something buried deep. "I wasn't supposed to be here," he whispered. "They didn't want me to be, so they took me away." My blood ran cold. Who took you away?" The room suddenly felt smaller, the air thicker. The shadows in the corners seemed to stretch and pulse, reaching for the edges of my vision. The boy's expression darkened. "They don't like when I talk about them," he murmured. "They get angry." As if on cue, a sharp knock echoed from the walls. Not the door, the walls. I jumped, my breath coming in rapid gasps. The boy's gaze flickered toward the sound, then back to me. "They know you're listening now," he said, his voice barely audible. I scrambled for my phone, my fingers trembling as I turned on the flashlight. But the moment the beam of light hit the spot where the boy had been sitting, he was gone, but something else remained. On my blanket, right where he had been sitting, were small, dirt-stained fingerprints. I should have left it alone. I should have pretended I never saw him, but I couldn't. I had to know if he was real. I had to know if my parents had been hiding something from me, and when I asked my mother about it, her reaction told me everything. The next morning, I sat across from my mother at the kitchen table. She was sipping her coffee, her tired eyes scanning the morning paper. I hesitated, gripping my mug to steady my shaking hands. "Mom, was there ever—" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Was there ever another child before me?" The color drained from her face. Her fingers stiffened around her cup. For a long, agonizing moment, she didn't speak. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear, she whispered, "Who told you?" My stomach dropped, so it was true. "Mom," I pressed. "Who was he? What happened?" She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "We don't talk about him." "Why not?" I demanded. "I saw him. I saw a little boy in my room last night. He said his name was—" I stopped, because I realized something chilling. He had never told me his name. My mother's expression twisted in horror. She covered her mouth, her hands trembling. "You shouldn't have spoken to him," she whispered. "You shouldn't have acknowledged him." "Why?" I breathed. She slowly looked up at me, her eyes filled with something between sorrow and fear. "Because we never gave him a name," she said shakily. "We never got the chance. I felt the blood drain from my face. He was stillborn. I couldn't breathe. We tried to move on, she continued, but sometimes, late at night, I'd hear tiny footsteps, or I'd find little handprints in the dust. She swallowed hard. We thought it was just grief, our minds playing tricks on us. But then one night, I saw him, and I knew. Her voice broke. He never left. A thick silence hung between us, heavy with the weight of the unsaid. And then, somewhere in the house, something scratched against the wall, slow, deliberate, like tiny fingernails dragging across the wood. My mother grabbed my wrist, her grip ice cold. He knows we're talking about him. I bolted upright. My head swiveled toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. The air was thick, suffocating, and then a child's giggle, soft, distant, but too close. My vision blurred as I stumbled back. My mother whispered something under her breath, a prayer, a plea, and then, in the reflection of the hallway mirror, just for a split second, I saw him, standing there, smiling. His lips moved, forming soundless words. I read them, and my blood ran cold. Now you remember me. The lights flickered, the giggle turned into a whisper, and then everything went dark. I never spoke of him again. I never asked questions. I never looked for him. But some nights when I'm lying in bed, I swear, I can feel the weight of something small sitting at the edge of my mattress, waiting, watching, remembering. Because now, so do I.